At the turn of the century, we as doctors in MSF, we'd simply reached a point of desperation. We were treating patients with sleeping sickness, a disease that is universally fatal if it's untreated, and we were giving a drug called milastazol, which killed 1 in every 20 patients. We had malaria, but I was treating that with chloroquine, which at that time there was extremely high levels of resistance to chloroquine, so we were seeing many, many people come back again with the same problem. We simply didn't have the tools to treat people that were coming in with very, very disturbing conditions, and to be put in that situation, to be straitjacketed in how you're practicing medicine and watching people die as a result was disheartening. And we're talking about diseases that affect the most vulnerable populations, including children, including people who live in very isolated rural areas. These aren't patients who can afford expensive treatments, and that's the bottom line. It's simply a reason why the pharmaceutical industry did not want to invest in developing R&D. Patients were dying in the field because of the lack of adequate treatment. It was very clear that things should and had to change. And in 2003, MSF and its partners got together and created the D&D working group, and out of that, the Drugs for Neglected Diseases initiative.
We decided to set up an initiative with a double strategy. One is to improve treatment with existing drugs, so relatively short-term strategy, taking the drugs that were there but improving the formulation, or taking drugs that have been developed for other diseases and testing those drugs for diseases affecting neglected population. And the second strategy was to go back to the discovery, to the selection of new chemical entities, so new drugs that are corresponding to characteristics that are a little bit more sophisticated to treat those patients. So what we have learned from 10 years of experience of DNDi is that you need to have the patient needs at the center of this project and adapt the new technology to those needs. For the field of malaria, we have developed a fixed-dose combination of artesunate with amodiaquine in the same tablet with a very simple regimen. Today, we estimate that more than 170 million patients have received this treatment.
We've also had other organizations that have been working, for instance, on diagnostics. There's been far more funding coming both from governments and from the private side. There's been more interest shown by industry. We've also seen creative ways to how to manage research and licensing. So we have seen a lot of progress in the last 10 years, but we still haven't seen big breakthroughs, new chemical entities and new drugs that are really game changers, changing the way we're treating patients in the field. If you take the example of Chagas disease, we still don't even have an adequate diagnostic test for this. We still actually don't have an adapted treatment for this disease as well. If you take the case of tuberculosis, we can only cure 1 out of 2 patients with multiple drug-resistant TB. This is a terrible situation to be in. We're putting patients through immense suffering by giving them very long courses of toxic treatment that make them deaf, for instance, treatments that require injections for months and months on end. You have to ask yourself the question, how much progress have we really made? People are still dying of archaic diseases. Why are we in this situation? we have to think of the next phase. And ultimately, if we have these global public health problems, what we need is public responsibility, government responsibility, framework that can coordinate to a certain degree the activity that's going on.
The major gap today is lack of leadership at a government level. And if we use experience of other diseases, a lot of progress have been made in the field of oncology, for example, during these last 10, 20 years, because it's a clear priority set up by governments.
The fact that we need to make an investment in this should not scare people, especially in the times that we're living with difficult economic conditions. We have to make governments understand that this is not just an issue of responsibility, but it's an investment that's really going to pay off in the future. We can't continue to keep ourselves in a system that results in people dying all over our planet from preventable causes.